stovepipes to work across to help each other? And the answer in my mind is yes, and entrepreneurship is a very big part of it. If you go to Galena today, I was there 10 days ago, it was amazing how the owner of the major store in Galena is also the spark plug behind the senior center that's helping a cluster of villages around there that's providing jobs or has the potential to provide jobs, working with the Tribal Health Consortium. It's amazing how they've taken their local educational issue with a boarding school and IDEA to become one of the biggest correspondence schools in the state. And so some of it was private entrepreneuring and some of it is kind of public entrepreneuring, but you maybe had a different answer in mind, but I will tell you that working across that makes sense. I think it also makes sense in the same way that we've identified with the state energy plan, kind of what are some of the best renewable opportunities in each of these villages, to go back to the previous question. I don't think well, I would say this. We've gone through in the Alaska Forward project, trying to identify what are the clusters in each region that are likely to be putting people to work over a period of time. But I don't know yet. I mean, even Larry Kaplan, who heads the Alaska Native Language Center at UAF, said if you want to preserve Alaska languages, figure out how to do some more hit songs in Yupik. Okay? So if that isn't an entrepreneurial opportunity, I don't know what is.
Thank you.
Kristen, thank you.
I want to thank you, Lieutenant Governor Treadwell. It's so incredible you taking the time to come and meet with us again, and you know, pressing on opportunities that we have, and I think also this whole idea. It's something that other universities are turning this idea of a quad helix, that in order to seize those opportunities, exactly what you just said, you know, it takes government, private industry, the nonprofit sector, universities, all coming together and figuring out those solutions. Sometimes it's not just a private enterprise. Right. So as you're all thinking about how to seize those. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Great.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, stay on time here. Before we get into the infrastructure, I want to go back to the business plans because I forgot something, and not one of you remembered. If you remember, I said I was going to go back to the executive summary. You remember that? When I did it? I didn't go back, did I? So you all failed. You all get an F for the day along with me.
By the end of the day.
What?
We thought you meant by the end of the day.
Oh, good one. By the end of the day. I want to go back and just spend a couple minutes on something with the executive summary when you're doing a business plan. And I did make copies, and I've handed out a few hard copies of the Great Peonies. So if you want one, I have one. Okay? Now, what you need to do in an executive summary, in the very first paragraph, is what they call the hook. The hook. You got to hook them. What we mean by that is you got to grab your audience. Because a lot of people, especially people who are going to invest in your business, if you don't make it interesting and hook them very quickly, they may not read it. For instance, in this one, the hook in here is in the third sentence where it says, in fact, our state is the only location in the world where these flowers can be grown during the last half of July, August, and September. Only place in the world. It's got my attention. That sounds like a monopoly. Sounds like a hell of a good monopoly, right? And it is. It took me about 3 months to really believe this. It's true. The only place in the world to grow these flowers, the second most popular flower in the world, is right here because of temperature and soil conditions. It's a huge, huge market. They hooked them. They hooked me to read this. Well, we worked on it together, but they did. They did it. They did it. The couple did it. But it was one of just working and making sure we had the right hook. So in your business plan, you need to throw something in that first paragraph that's going to keep everybody interested. Something about your business that really will make people think, wow, or really? Well, let me read more. Okay? So make sure you do that in your business plan. I wanted to get back to that point. Okay? Now, we're going to talk about infrastructure. Does this mean the building? Does this mean location? No. No, it doesn't. We're going to talk a little bit about all the things like the tax identification number. You go into business, you can do it two ways. You can use your Social Security number if you're real small, or you got to go out and get your tax identification number. You got to get that early on because your bank's going to want that, everybody's going to want that. So when you start planning your business, it doesn't cost you anything, maybe 10, I don't know, if it does $10 or something. You get a tax identification number. Okay? Also, I don't have up here, but trademark your name. I had 2 companies in the last 18 months lose their name because they put it out on the web and did trademark it first. And there's trollers out there. They troll. They look for names and ideas, and they took these names. We had to then change things. It's just a pain in the butt to do, especially if you have a really cool name, right? Trademark it. But get your tax identification number and trademark. I don't have that here, but under legal structure, I'll talking trademark a little bit. Set it up and then go trademark it. Once you know that the name's trademarkable, it's easy to do. You go on the web. The state has a trademark thing. You go through it and see and put in for it, and they tell you in a day, I think, maybe even within an hour, whether it's you can trademark it or not. If somebody else has it, then you got to change. But again, do that early on. Legal structure. We talked a little about yes.
For the trademark on names, is there a way to do the U.S. database? That you can
Yes, you can do the U.S. also. Absolutely.
So you can look and see quickly the
Yep. Both of them. The national and or the federal or the state are very quick, yeah. They're very easy to navigate, okay, to get trademarks. The legal structure. Partnership is one, S Corp is another, LLC is another. You got to figure out what's best for you. Give you an example, Bear Stew, set up as an S Corp. They never thought about the fact that someday maybe a company would want to invest in them. A company cannot invest in an S corporation. It's illegal. Only individuals can invest in an S corporation. So if you're going to set up a company and you say someday I may have a company that wants to invest in me or buy into me, make sure it's an LLC, okay? Because to switch over from an S to an LLC costs about 10 grand. It's not easy. It's not cheap. Set it up the way you want first. Talk to your legal advisor, tax advisor, whatever. Get that company set up correctly. But you need to set it up, obviously, with the right legal structure so you can do business. Because the banks and anybody else are going to want that information, okay? Business license. You have to have a business license in almost every location. Sometimes you need a state one and a local one. It depends on the state you're in and the location. Sometimes you need a municipality one, sometimes a county one. It all depends, okay? But you'll need a business license here in Anchorage, okay? Go get it. Got to have it. You can get into business without it, but if they catch it, they fine you. Get the business license. Get that done early. Whole idea here is when you set up a company, you should be working these things as you're working your plan and other things. Get them done so you have it completed. Business bank account, another thing. Get it set up. Sounds like, oh God, I'll never forget that, but people say, oh, I'll use my own funds, my own bank account. You don't want to do that. You don't want to commingle funds. IRS will not like it. The IRS wants to see a bank account. They want to know what the transactions are. They don't want you commingling with your own funds. You will not win that one with the IRS, I can assure you. Another one is accounting software. If you're going to sell things and products or a service, you'll need an accounting software package. Now, they're very inexpensive. QuickBooks is a couple of $100 or $100 to put in. Peachtree's a couple hundred more, but it's a little more robust. Pick the right one for your business, okay? Pick the right one for your business. Get it set up. Get it in play before you open the door so you don't have to worry about that. Because once you really get out there and start marketing and stuff, you don't have time for this. Trust me, you won't have time. You want to do these things ahead of time and get it over with. Billing, because you're going to do the billing AR and AP through the accounting system, so you want that done, okay? Then you want a payroll service. I mentioned that one time. I know a company, believe it or not, nice company, set up a bunch of engineers, ready to go, and they lost one of their top engineers because they forgot to set up a payroll system and they didn't get it for a month. The guy didn't get paid. He said, if you guys are that stupid, I'm out of here. He did. He said, look, I got opportunities. And you guys are that stupid you didn't set up your payroll? I can't get paid for a month because you didn't have payroll service? Hello? Right? So have it set up. I mean, that's a true story. I mean, it happens. Look, and you think, oh, this is infrastructure, everything can happen in one. No, it takes about a month to get a good payroll service set up. Okay? All right? They got to vouch your background, your financials. They got to set up the paperwork, put it through, get an ACH done with your bank and some other things. So there's some paperwork to do there. Don't think that that's insignificant. Okay? Now insurance. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Now, I told a couple people this one, so don't say it if I told you. Average company, mid-sized, small company, how many insurance policies do you think they may have? Somebody want to answer that? Anybody take a guess? Don't say it if I told you, Jeremy. What? 10. 10? 8 or 9. Good. You should probably say 8 or 9 policies? Wow, I only have homeowners and automobile in my house. What?
Different policies to choose from?
No, that you need. That you will need to be in business.
I've got 7.
Whoa, do you really? See, there's one there.
Tiny little copy.
Tiny little car. And you know what? You didn't have one the other day when I talked to you, right?
Yeah, there's one that apparently I don't have.
And I told her, I said, I can almost bet you, I have never, this is almost, I think once I went into a company that I worked with, and they had all the policies. And the one policy I could almost bet $1,000 on that they wouldn't have was commercial auto for their employees. She has a stand, okay? She sends an employee out to go pick something up at Cars. That employee gets in an accident. Okay, the employee's got insurance, $250,000, $300,000, but she happened to hit 3 little kids along the way. Put them all in the hospital for a month or 2. That ain't enough. You know who they're going to sue? You, your company. Her employee was on her business. They will sue you. They have every right to do it, and they will win every time. Automobile insurance. That's one of them. Almost everybody I know that I've worked with never has that. Very inexpensive, by the way. A couple $100 at most for a company like that, or any company. I had a big company with 32 employees. It was $1,200. Because again, you have the underlying individual insurance, then you have the commercial policy. But let's go back and talk about all the different ones. General liability, obviously you need that, right? You need general liability policy. You need product liability in some cases. If you're selling a product. Bear Distillery, as soon as we started selling product, we added product liability. God forbid if something happened and somebody wanted to sue us over they said there was something or other in the bottle and wanted to sue, we have product liability insurance, okay? Automobile, we covered that. You actually need that as a company if you ever think about sending an employee out, doing your bidding or whatever. Real quick, I had a construction company. They had 8 supervisors going out to all these sites. They said, oh, the guys drive their own truck. They have their own insurance. I said, well, tell you what, you better get this. You got 8 people out there in Atlanta. You got risk coming at you. I wouldn't sleep at night. I would not. If I owned that company, I would not sleep at night knowing I didn't have that covered. The chances of me losing that company go up, not having that automobile insurance company, especially if you've ever been to Atlanta and drove there, you know what I'm talking about. It's a nightmare. 80 miles an hour on the interstates is slow, okay? Absolutely slow. Directors and officers. Now, if you do have a bigger company, this is more for the bigger company, you'll need directors and officers insurance, and that's when you kind of grow up and be a little bit bigger. You will want that to protect the directors and officers of the company. But let's go look. Business interruption. Okay? We actually have that again at Bear. If the distillery breaks down and something happens, we're covered. We have a fire or there's an earthquake, usually earthquake one. That's kind of possible here, right? I think. A few rumbles now and then, right? Right? You have an earthquake, business interruption insurance. I'm paid at least enough so that I don't go out of business. And it's not expensive. You got business interruption insurance.
Does that typically include if they're reconstructing your road on your?
No.
Uh,
No.
That doesn't count.
Probably not. No.
No,
No.
that happened to us.
Yeah, and
We got a
all your
huge fence
customers.
built that we lost so much business.
Yeah. No, yeah. This is more for your big disasters. Okay? Yeah.
So say in my case, like, you know, the facility, for some reason, the pumps fail, all the crops die. So if we have contracts with our business, you know, or with our customers, we have to fulfill that contract. So
Right.
business interruption insurance.
That's possible. You gotta look at your insurance policy, okay? I mean, everyone's different, depends on the firm that's gonna write that and underwrite it, and it's how much you wanna pay. If you wanna cover a lot more things, like in a lot of places, insurance policy, you can. You pay for it. You pay for it, okay? You can do that. Property and casualty, it kinda goes along with general liability. You gotta insure your property, internal and external property, and any casualty losses to that property, okay? So that's certainly a separate one. A lot of these are bundled and packaged, okay? Like general liability and property casualty. Product liability is all bundled into one for most companies you can have. So they're not always separate, but they're usually, I like to talk about it separately because they can be sold separately or bundled. And obviously if you get them bundled, it's better for you and cheaper. But these are the separate elements of insurance that you would not want to have as you go into a business as an entrepreneur so you don't have problems, okay? Another one is errors and omissions. If you're a service company, an accounting firm, a legal firm, whatever, you want errors and omissions because if you make a mistake in a contract or you screw up somebody's taxes, which I had a company screwed up mine pretty big one year, they had errors and omissions. I was really flooded. I did sue them, it was a couple $1,000, but if they had made a big error on a corporate tax return or something, you know, they have to have errors and omissions to cover their errors or the omission that they made. So if you have a service company and you're doing consulting work or maybe tax work or whatever, you will want errors and omissions insurance, okay? It's kind of akin to your product liability for a product company, for your service company. Workers' compensation, you gotta have it. Now, owners, yourselves, you don't have to have it. Why? You're not gonna sue yourself if you get hurt, right? I hope not. The only ones that'll make out there are the lawyers, okay? You're not gonna sue yourself, but if you have a couple employees, you have to, by law, have workers' compensation, okay? So you have to have that. And I usually tie that in with the payroll company, have the payroll company handle that. Or you can go out and have it separately, one or the other. So workers' compensation, very important to have, especially in a business where somebody's driving or lifting or doing some labor. Very inexpensive for office-type businesses, a lot more expensive for your warehouse-type businesses, obviously. But it's not expensive insurance, but one that you must have by law. They will come after you if you don't have workers' comp. You can get by with a couple of these others, but I can assure you, go to a bank and try to get a loan, or try to go to a vendor that you're going to do business with, they're going to ask you for this. I have never, when I've done, going out there to try to get big marketing deals done, where they don't ask and say, how much insurance do you have? In fact, I'll give you a quick example. I have a son-in-law in Georgia. He called me one day and said, Al, I got a big deal going on with a hospital, and it's a huge hospital. And I really need to get this insurance done because we need $5 million worth of product liability insurance. We only have $3 million. And we called Hartford up, who's our carrier, and they said, my God, we don't even insure your industry anymore. We want to pull off the insurance. They were in the critical response business, so it's somewhat fraught with issues, okay? So he had to run out and within a couple weeks get other insurance so he could apply and finish off this contract with this big hospital, okay? And it worked. We got it for him. I told him who to call. I had a contact in Atlanta. Said, give this gentleman a call. He'll work with you, okay? Otherwise, that little company, two-man company, would have lost out on a couple $1 million deal. Because that entity said, you must have, to do business with us, $5 million. That happens all the time. So a lot of times you'll need this just to be able to supply your clients with business, products or services. They'll demand it. They want coverage. They want to be protected. Okay? So that's it on insurance. Any questions on insurance? Oh, one last one I don't have on here. Somebody asked about it over lunch. If you have employees that are taking money and going to the bank, you need fiduciary bond insurance. Okay? That way, if they do steal from you, which can happen, believe it or not, okay, you are covered. It's called fiduciary bond insurance. Alan, have I missed any? You probably know these pretty well.
You're doing fantastic.
And you know any? I've been getting so old I forget things.
What's your recommendation to the group on key man insurance?
Yeah, well, again, we had that in the last company before I came here. An engineer started it, and he was in his 50s, and the venture capitalist said, yeah, when we invest, the deal is you'll get $2 million key man insurance. That guy dies of a heart attack or does something else, or he goes, you know, Alzheimer's, we're, you know, well, he has to die, I guess, but if he dies, goes away, we got key man insurance on him. You know, we're covered. We got a couple million, we don't lose everything, okay? So if there's a real key person in your business, you can have key man insurance. You buy that life insurance policy, and it's certainly worth it. Although it's pretty expensive as you get older. And this guy, it was expensive to get it, but we had to do it again. But we wouldn't have gotten the money. The investment would not have been there without key man insurance. That was a requirement, an absolute requirement. A lot of good brokers in town. Everybody can work you through the insurance thing. You know, there's a lot of things about insurance. You can package it off, and it's not a lot of money. It sounds like it would be. It's not a lot. I think we pay about $11,000 for everything at the distillery, which is pretty risky business. 11 grand a year. Sounds like a lot, but it's a risky business. You can have problems, stills, and all that stuff. So 11 grand, it's worth it. You sleep better at night. Okay? Another thing you need, website. You got to have a website in this day and age, right? I got a person that said, well, you know, where's your website for this business or that business? As soon as you're up, they want to see a website. They want to know you're real. Okay? They want to know you're out there. You understand the world of the internet. This is one, if you get into business and you start getting records built up, especially if you're a service business, okay? Please go ahead and get backup, if you know what I mean, backing up your data. I happen to work for a law firm here. When I came here, one of the largest law firms, I won't mention who it was, but it was a large law firm, they didn't have any backup. What would happen if an earthquake hit and they couldn't access their systems and they went down? The clients would not be very happy, would they? You wouldn't be able to handle them. On the flip side, Everett Brunlow has a medical business here. So I asked him, I said, what do you do for your business? He says, oh, God. He said, we back up every night in Atlanta and in Dallas. Both places. He said, oh, yeah. I want to ensure that I have those records. It's a real legal problem if I don't. If I don't have records on my patients, I'm in trouble. So very, very inexpensive to back up. $100 a month, probably. All he needs is a piece of a server in a location somewhere outside. Now, here's the funny part. The law firm I was working with, they decided, yeah, they're going to get backup. They got backup right here in Anchorage, 2 miles away. So I said to them, I said, okay, really good, guys. That earthquake is only going to go right down the middle. You know, inlet, you're in the inlet, and the earthquake, you know, where they're at in G Street, they're going to be fine, right? I mean, come on. Come on, that was the dumbest thing. I mean, it's dumber than not having it almost. By the way, I don't work there. I love them. They're still my law firm, by the way. They do legal work. So they're okay. I got a good relationship with them. But after a while, I hate to say it, if there's any lawyers in here, I apologize. You know, lawyers aren't business people. They don't understand this stuff. And my son's a lawyer, my daughter-in-law's a lawyer. I'm allowed to say bad jokes about lawyers, okay? And they just don't understand business. Now, my son does. He's got an MBA, thank God. I made him do that because I didn't want a dumb, non-business lawyer in the family. I worked with too many of them. Too many of them. And the beauty of it is his wife is a CPA on top of it. So they do understand. Very few understand business stuff. And to have these lawyers do what they do, it was just mind-boggling. I don't even know if they're backing up anywhere else yet. But to back up halfway doesn't make sense. Mount Redoubt goes off again, we're swamped with ash, they're out of business.
My sons both work for Apple, and they recommend no less than 3 sources of backup.
Really?
An external hard drive locally in your office.
Right, okay, that's good.
Power flicker, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Off-site servers, minimum of 2.
Right.
And then an iCloud backup.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. Today in iCloud, when I was there, I didn't, yeah, right, in iCloud.